It's about as far from the world stage as you can get. The wide open rolling hills of the Transkei, where Rolihlahla Mandela, later to become Nelson Mandela, grew up. He was born in the village of Mvezo. The site of his hut is now a tourist centre. Aged 2, Mandela moved to nearby Kunu, regarded as his spiritual home. His early years were spent out on the veldt. He was a herd boy tending sheep and cows in the fields. What's now a weekend chore was a full-time job for 5-year-old Nelson in the 1920s. Little remains of the school in Kuna where he later learnt to read and write. You can just trace the curve of the classroom, now overshadowed by the museum dedicated to his life. And it was in this building that Nelson Mandela was first given his name Nelson by his teacher. In his autobiography, he also talks about how poor his family were. They couldn't afford the school uniform. So he ended up attending the first day in an old pair of his father's trousers, cut off at the knee and cinched at the waist with a piece of string. He said he was never prouder to wear any other uniform than that one. Aged 9, Nelson Mandela was brought here after his father died. It's called the Grand Place in Umkwekizweni, home to a local tribal regent. Nelson was placed in his care. He used to eavesdrop on local politicians talking under these trees, perhaps the first stirrings of his political consciousness. This local historian says Nelson Mandela's decision to leave behind his beloved Kunu was unplanned.
Moving away from here was never his intention, until the time that there was an arranged marriage for him and Justice, the regent's son. So they decided, no, this can't happen, so they decided to run away to Joburg. And then that's where everything started happening for him in Joburg.
The woman whom eventually entered an arranged marriage to Mandela's friend Justice is 92-year-old Nozulile Mtikaka. She's never talked on camera before.
I never thought Nelson would become so famous and become president. Mandela's mother told me of his arrest. It was a sad day when I heard he had been sentenced to life.
It took 27 years for Nelson Mandela to be released from prison and 4 more to finally ascend to the presidency. But the boy from Kunu came back, retiring in this modest but comfortable home in the village, where he could once again look out at those stunning vistas and reflect on his long walk to freedom. Dan Rivers, CNN, Kunu, South Africa.